Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Ratner. Today I am joined by Dani Fagan, the creator of My TMS Journey, her program for yoga, meditation, and breathwork for the pain community. You can find her program and all of her resources on her website, mytmsjourney.com. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below. And finally, you can reserve your place in one of my seminars or purchase any of my mind-body guides, also known as the PDFs, at www.crushingdoubt.org. Now, without further ado, here is my conversation with Dani Fagan. Dani, it is a pleasure to have you here. This has been a bit of a long time in the making, and really great to have you on. Of course, you interviewed me already, but now the shoe's on the other foot.
It's lovely to see you finally. It's been a while. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So I wanted to just, for my viewers, I tend to want to ask about what your mind-body experience was like in the first place, how you came to this experience. First personally, and then we'll get into professionally, but tell us the story of when your symptoms began.
I mean, now that I'm at this place where I've come through a lot of it, I've come through the biggest part of my sort of symptoms, my story. I noticed that I had TMS, I had mind body symptoms for a long time. As many people probably do, as they kind of come through it, they realize like, oh, those years that I thought I had IBS was also, BS. So years ago, I suppose during my 30s-ish, so in the last sort of 10 years, I've had big bouts of headaches that lasted a few months, and I had like MRIs for that. Nothing showed up. I had bouts, like I say, of like stomach problems, bloating, food aversions, and all that kind of thing. But what happened eventually, in about 2015, I had progressively getting worse kind of back pain over about a year or so. And one night I just woke up in the middle of the night with this intense spasm. Like a lot of people kind of say a similar sort of story, like it was as if something had just snapped, something went out, something was, I think your story was really similar, wasn't it? That it's just like something's burst, something's broken, it was explosive, but I was asleep, so it wasn't like I did anything that I thought had triggered it. So that was quite alarming. And then I kind of crawled across the floor to go to the bathroom. It was just, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't sit up, it was horrific. So that was, I guess that was the peak, if you want, of about a year of it just getting progressively worse. And then I think because of the amount of fear that surrounds like something like that, the fear that then came about on top of what I already had, just kept it firing and kept it, equally as bad for a long time. I could stand up eventually and I could sit up eventually, but it was just literally like a roller coaster of constant pain, constant spasms, constant like fiery machete in the spine kind of thing. And I just got the runaround, the kind of typical story really with the medical model. I lived in Spain at the time, and they're a bit more advanced in the UK, I suppose, in terms of knowing about stress-related stuff. Not that I was ever diagnosed with anything like that, anything TMS-y anyway, of course not. But yeah, I just got the kind of generic runaround really. I got, the really hardcore opiates, the physiotherapy, the chiropractic care, years, I guess. It was probably about, oh, excuse me, my cat's jumping up. About 3 years of intense different types of treatments and therapies and stuff. And thankfully, I wasn't offered.
Sorry, Dani, these were just like physical treatments you're talking, physical therapy.
Always,
yeah. Right, okay.
Yeah. Always. Physically treating symptoms with, I used to go to the ER not regularly, fairly often, because like regular painkillers just weren't touching the sides basically. And they gave me injections of diazepam. Now, looking back on that, I should have really kind of looked that up and figured out what that was doing, because that was just chilling me out, basically. That was muscle relaxant. That wasn't like, oh, we're reducing the size of your herniated disc that we've told you you've got. So anyway, you can wish and wish and wish your life away, can't you, going back in time? But thankfully I didn't get any surgeries or anything like that, but I was just a bit desperate, really. I was still looking for answers. I wasn't kind of happy with the you'll be living with this your whole life kind of diagnosis that I was given, because it wasn't bad enough. My herniated disc and my disc degeneration, which was my kind of diagnosis, wasn't bad enough for surgery or for any kind of other treatment. So it was just like, you're going to have to manage this and probably be wheelchair bound. You know, great. I'm like 30 fucking 2 or 3 at the time. Like, nice.
Well, that's part of what's so hard. I mean, it can be hard at any age, but I remember thinking, because mine onset hit at 28. I was like,
yeah,
how
it's a joke.
How am I falling apart when other people are not? And I just, it's funny. It feels so distant now. It's been so long.
Yeah,
I've mastered it in so many different ways. But when I hear people talk about it like you do, I remember just how horrific it was, and it kind of renews my empathy for everybody out there who is suffering.
I totally agree, and I'm kind of thankful that the brain also has that nice like capacity to help you forget how bad things are when they're really shit, you know? Like, it kind of erases it all a little bit for you, and it becomes a story, and it's like, oh good, thank God for that, it's not my life anymore. Right,
but back then, that was us. So let's jump forward to how you began to find your way out of this. This is like, you know, I think of this as the Sarno moment, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be Sarno, but it was
the Sarno moment. It was Sarno jumping out of his seat in the sainthood of the sky and just like lightning bolts. I stumbled on a comment on Facebook, and someone was recommending healing back pain to someone else, and I was just scrolling Facebook and I saw the word back pain and my mind went, bing, what is this? I need this. I'm completely desperate. I've tried everything. I will read a book and think this is, you know, utter tosh, but read it anyway. And it was like, from the first page, I was completely blown away. Like, how does this dude know me? Who is this? What is this? What is this magical mystery tour that I'm on now?
I love that you say that for multiple reasons, including that I'm a huge Beatles fan. So,
are we going to sing today or what?
We'll see how the interview goes, but I'm ready. I do sing. So the other thing that I love about what you just said there, and I didn't know you were going to say this, and I didn't even remember if we had discussed this before, but his description of me jumping off of the page was the number one thing that convinced me this guy must know what he's talking about.
Same. It was all about me.
Right. I mean, I just, and actually that to me is part of the mystery of this all. I sometimes wonder, okay, why did people not know about Sarno? They still don't to a large degree, but lesser than they used to. And also, why was it that a medical doctor who was specializing in back pain and wrote a book knew me better than the therapists that I was seeing?
Knew me better than I knew myself.
Or myself, right.
Yeah, I never admitted to myself all those things he did. It was shocking. Yes. But you're absolutely right. Same thing happened to me.
What were the things that jumped out at you from it? I mean, for me, it was the goodest stuff. I was like, oh my God, that's...
The personality traits, 100%. Yeah, the personality traits were like... And I'd never heard anybody even describe those things, even recognize them in myself. None of it. I had no idea who I was. Like, I'd gone my whole life just being this mad person that thinks too much. I never knew like what I didn't even think I had anxiety. That's how disconnected I was to myself. The personality trait stuff, some reference to the childhood stuff, like difficulty in some sort of family upbringing kind of things. I think those are the main two. And obviously the fact that, like, you know, it mentioned herniated discs pretty much on every page, and it was very back pain focused. I get that a lot of people don't resonate with it because of that, but, you know, once they get into it, they see that it is sort of applicable to all things, all mind body syndromes. But those main things, particularly the personality traits, like it was like somebody had just read my mind.
Exactly.
From a chip or something. Like, I thought, this is ridiculous. Right. Like, what the fuck is this? Yeah.
No, I remember I was reading it and I was like looking around being like,
yeah, exactly. And it's a really old book as well. Like, what the?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Shocking.
It was shocking. I like you, I came in very skeptical. When I first got a Sarno book, I let it sit on a shelf for probably 10 months. I was like,
did you?
I'm not stooping to this level, is what I thought. And
Even
then,
though you'd studied psychology and psychotherapy, what on
well,
earth was
I probably would have been even more open to it if it had been from a psychologist, ironically.
Right. Sure.
But I was like, this is a medical doctor. Honestly, I don't know why. But it shows you that I, like many other people, it shows you that people shy away from it because they feel that it means there's something wrong with them. Like that's how I was seeing it. I was like, if I've come to this supposed bottom of the barrel, something's wrong with me. And then as I read it, I was like, oh my God, there's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with everybody out there.
Exactly.
Who's treating these things. So it was the most mind-blowing event of my entire life.
Same. Absolutely agree. I didn't fight it though. I didn't actually have a moment of, well, this isn't me, or this can't be me, or this might be bullshit. I was sold literally by about page 3. It just took me.
Let me say, I was sold probably on page 1. I just resisted the initial, like I just kind of put it on a shelf being like, oh, maybe that's something I'll check out. It wasn't an active resistance. Once I read it, just starting, I was like,
that face.
There's something
exactly that face. Yeah, that's it. So after that, it took about, I read it, I was sold, but I didn't really understand what to do next. So I understood I sort of understood the think psychologically, don't think physically thing, but then I needed sort of instruction as to what that really meant, or what did I physically have to do? So I kind of got back to a little bit of movement. I started doing very gentle, trying not to fear my symptoms and bits and bobs like that, but just taking parts of his principles, getting back to a little bit of movement, trying not to fear what was going on. But I'd kind of needed more. I needed a bit of hand holding. And because I was figuring all this stuff out about myself after, 30 odd years of life, like maybe I've got some shit I really need to face that I haven't obviously faced, and it's coming out in my body. It took me a couple of years to suss out what that was. So I did get a bit better just by not having so much fear surrounding it. But I did still really struggle with, sitting and being in a car or walking anywhere more than a minute or so and stuff like that. So I was in no way, I was a bit better. And then when we moved to England, I was like, right, I'm going to be able to see better practitioners here. There's going to be, so it's my own language, and there'll probably be a bit more kind of au fait with this stuff over here. I'll find some mind-body practitioner here that I can go to and get instructions. That didn't happen. That doesn't really exist, or didn't from what I was looking at the time. Did a load of Googling. I was like, right, I'm not going to do any more physiotherapy, and all that stuff I was just done with. It was making me worse, and I decided to just really dive in again and find some answers. So I cut a long story short, I found Nicole Sachs, and I found the journal speak method. And that kind of really spoke to me, because I know this is probably not the same for everybody, because each person has different things they need to overcome, as you know, with your sort of columned approach. But I think for the majority of people, or a lot of people, there's some emotional discovery work that needs to happen to face some shit, or understand at least why you are the way you are, to be able to unpack it a little bit. And I didn't really know. I had no idea that feelings were to be felt in the body. Like, I thought, what, you don't just think that you're distressed, or you don't just like live in your mind and this is the only thing that you have? You don't have a physical body. Like, of course you have all these symptoms, but you're so out of tune with it. It's like, that was a real discovery for me. So I followed the journal speak method, and it taught me how to feel. It literally taught me that emotions were safe, that I was safe to feel them. And that was a bit of a kind of self-discovery kind of thing that I've learned so much about myself in that time. So once I started that, it was about, I really dived in I got into meditation. I was doing that every day, and I was doing gentle yoga about 3 or 4 times a week at that point. And really just kind of committing to doing some sort of daily practice to get myself through it, because I just had enough. I was like, right, I know what this is, and I know I can heal from this, but I need to really do the work. I've been avoiding the emotional stuff for long enough, sort of thing. So my lists were long. My journaling lists were like a fucking doomsday book, which was a bit daunting. But I actually only got through probably about 10 topics, and by then I was feeling better. So it just goes to show you don't really need to dig up your entire life history to, get through this. It was sort of like just relieving the pressure valve for me, and kind of.
That's a great point. And also another way that I was thinking about it as you were talking is it kind of released that pressure valve, but it also gave you some confidence that you now had a system of some kind.
Yeah, for real.
And
someone understood me as well. I think that was massive.
Yeah. Well, I had a similar experience with Sarno that it made all the sense in the world to me, but I was like, but how? And I actually talked to Sarno for like a 2-minute call.
Did you?
He was retired, and he was only like returning calls every 2 weeks or something. So I was waiting. I get on the phone with him. Bugger. I know. I got on the phone with him, and I'm just thinking, this guy is like God. He has the answers somehow. So I'm hanging on every word, and I say to him, so here's the situation. What you wrote makes perfect sense to me. I think it's right on. I think it is the answer, but I don't exactly know what to do, which is kind of what you said. And here's what he said. He said, well, why don't you work on it? And I was like, what?
Come on, man.
So the interesting thing is I thought, Dr. Sarno, come on. How are you going to let me down like that? And the interesting thing is eventually I came to see that he had confidence that I would get there. But I still needed help. I still needed all kinds of how-tos. So I went to see Eric Sherman. And look, it's part of how my work is I am trying to go ahead and give exactly what I wished I had had then. And Same. I think you must be doing, a similar thing. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the work that you do and how it's driven by your experience.
Right. So as I said, when I started to kind of put steps into my own recovery and figure out what felt safe for me to do, part of that, just following the main Sarno principles, was getting back to some kind of movement and trying to dial down the fear of movement and sitting and that kind of thing. I'd always loved yoga, and I hadn't practiced it for ages through fear of hurting myself and always getting spasms and flare-ups whenever I did anything. So I just went to some really simple restorative classes, and honestly, I hated going to a studio. I felt really powerless, the key word of the day. So in the end, I just I made up my own kind of hybrid practice that I knew were the sort of stretches that made me feel safe. I could spend 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever I wanted to do. I didn't have to stand around everyone doing headstands and feel like shit and all that kind of stuff. And I just know how, and that was just from a movement perspective at first. And then I noticed after doing that for a couple of months just how much better I felt in my soul. It was something so soothing to me. And the more I learned about yoga, I realized that it is literally a mind-body practice. It is to soothe the nervous system. It's a healing modality. It's not an exercise regime. The West has turned it into, a workout, but really it is a work in.
I love that's clever, but I also really like what you said about it, because when I think about what it's like, certainly in America, there is this drive to work out. Yeah. And you're right. There's a working in.
And wear the fancy leggings and do a headstand on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
Which is partly, I get it. It needs promotion, but also, and anyway, the benefits that I was feeling outside of the physical aspect was kind of overwhelming to me how good it was working. So that helped with a meditative practice. Learning how to breathe properly was really key to me feeling safe in my body, and just learning to kind of feel what was happening in my body, which I was so cut off from for so long. So what I decided to do, and this wasn't even related to what I'm doing in my work now since recovering. I got through recovery in about four months or so. I was sort of having big bouts of pain-free days. So I was like 90% there. I just needed to work on the flare-ups and that kind of stuff. And it was just a matter of time till it works its way out. I was quite confident about that. I decided to, once I was well enough, I was going to go and do yoga teacher training, which had been a goal that I'd had forever, that I'd never ever dreamt that I'd be able to do, never mind with the pain. But I never thought about doing anything with it. It was literally just like a life goal. And then by this time, I'd already built my website to help other people recover from TMS. So basically, I built a website to collate all of the stuff that I'd used myself that had helped me. My recovery journey, I put in there in like a stepped process, all the resources that I use, Nicole's work, your work, all that kind of stuff is on there. And then I did the yoga teacher training and I was like, why don't I like help other people with this that's really helped me? And I don't understand why I didn't realize that at first, but it wasn't my goal at all. And yeah, to summarize that, it was, it took another couple of months for me to get it kind of sorted. But since coming back from the teacher training and starting this new yoga for TMS kind of course for people, was like about 4 or 5 months or something when I got it kind of finalized and what I was going to do. And now I teach the chronic pain community in live classes 3 times a week. And then I've got an on-demand library as well that has got like nearly 80 classes in there of very gentle, going from zero movement, only meditative and breathwork style practices, into very gentle movement and then more standing movement for a little bit more challenge. But it's so basic. It's not like you're going to be intimidated and, you're not going to a studio. You can do it from your home and it's very supportive. And yeah, that's where I'm at now.
One thing I'm really struck by, though, and this will not surprise you based on our conversations, is that you changed a lot in this process from what I'm hearing. You went from somebody and not just in terms of the emotions and being aware of them, but also one of our connections, I feel pretty strongly as part of our connection, is this idea of power. I want to hear a little bit more about when you discovered me, and you seem to, I resonated with you. We always use that word, but
totally. That was the piece that I didn't really recognize, I suppose, in my own recovery, but it was happening underneath, in the underbelly of what was going on. My self-esteem was building from zero, basically. I was learning these things that weren't my fault, and I was learning how to get over them and how to process them and all that kind of stuff. And just, I used to pick on myself for everything. Like, I'll pick on myself now for picking cat hair off my face. That would have been what it would have been like. Like, I ruined it. I had to get up and put the cat out the door. We'll have to record it again. I'm a complete loser. And now I'm just going to shit. I've got fucking cat hair on my face. It doesn't matter. Like, I learned that I'm all right. I learned that I'm a good person and it's not to my detriment, and I'm not going to suffer fools anymore. I'm placing big ass boundaries with people. I've learned how to I'm still working on this massively, but I'm learning that I have those moments of power, and I've practiced this actually more so since I spoke to you the last time. What would be the power move in this scenario that's really triggering me? Mm-hmm. And sometimes I don't do the power move because I just shit myself and go, I can't do this.
Of course.
Obviously. I'm human.
Yeah, well, look, if it was that easy, everybody would just become powerful and never look back. But
right, exactly.
The reason I sometimes say we have to live in the power column is because we are moment-to-moment beings. We're not going to stay powerful if we don't continue to work at each moment and recognize, in this moment, my power is diminished, and I need to think again. What's the powerful action step?
Right.
How did you discover me, Dani? I don't remember that.
I think it was YouTube. I think I just got recommended something, or someone shared an interview they had with you. I don't remember exactly what it was, and it wasn't really that long ago in the big scheme of things. I'd seen stuff on YouTube. I'd seen your branding, the red and the black and stuff, and I was like, "Who is this guy? I need to check this out. Who's this guy? I need to check this out." And all of this, your world goes around in circles and stuff. And then finally I watched it and I was just like, why have I not watched all of it? And I binged. I still binge it. I binged the hell out of it all. And I think it's such a beautiful approach because it's very structured. And I think people can get so overwhelmed with all of this stuff and what to do and, you know, how to work it. And we're also really sort of overachievy people that want some sort of structure and direction. I think that's why that works so beautifully. But the powerful stuff was really powerful. It was something that was like, it really stood out to me, because I now recognize that I still get, as everyone does, mind body symptoms will come knocking on my door and go, oi, when I've chosen the unpowerful stance, or someone's triggered me to feel powerless, or I'm talking with someone who I've known that has drawn power out of me for my whole life. Yeah. I will feel like I'm fucking dying for a day until I choose a powerful move and set that boundary or whatever it is I need to do. And it's almost like an instant relief, honestly. Like when those times that I have chosen the powerful move, since, you know, learning that from you, have been, not only I don't get more symptoms that day, I feel like fucking Superwoman. Yeah. It's that, I was like, wow, I did actually do that. I did that. And it's something stupid like writing someone a birthday card that I didn't want to have to write a birthday card for. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, it's not, no, it's nothing groundbreaking.
It doesn't, and it doesn't have to be. It's one of the things I love about the power column about being powerful is the smallest adjustment you make can be every bit as big as the
Massively.
Largest ones. You know,
and those are the things that, yeah.
Well, especially because you start to learn how to inhabit your power and then have that be a part of just who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. I forget it at certain moments. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's those small things that I think teach you to make those bigger decisions, and they all add up. It's not like it has to be something groundbreaking that you choose a new job, or, you know, standing up to your boss, or something really massive. It can be something just really small, and like rubbing out those pieces of triggers, and the triggers that you've had all your life start to get disarmed by making those kind of choices. You know, they might still be there. They might still freak you out. You still don't want to face them, but you are gradually like just planting little seeds, and eventually, you know, it becomes a powerful forest kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. One thing that I found is my life has changed so radically since resolving the symptoms and the power that came from that, because I was just like, whoa, this is a whole new different world. That started my power change. But then as I continue to go, my world just continues to change, and it can be in these little ways, like you said, with the cat hair. Like, that's a powerful move to just be like, I don't care. Who cares?
Yeah. There's so much more I don't give a shit about now. So much more.
Yeah.
No, the perfectionism is still there a little bit, because I don't think it can be completely erased. But I will leave errors in stuff. If I post something on social media and I notice an error on it, I'm like, I'm going to test myself to just not give a shit about changing it all and freaking out and taking it all down and rewriting it. I'm just going to leave it and learn to make mistakes and it not kill me.
Which is a hugely powerful thing. I mean, and we learn about ourselves too. I did not know how self-critical I was. You know,
same.
This will kind of crack you up, because I'm sure it'll be something that you can relate to. I used to think, no, I'm not that critical of myself, because I just try so hard to not make any mistakes.
Right, absolutely. How can I be critical? I'm being perfect.
Right.
Whilst you're like this inside, like fuck.
Yeah, and you know, it's no wonder I had symptoms. You know,
I mean, really.
So the idea, I think, of having, it's just something I know you and I have bonded over a lot. The idea of power, but I will say this: it's really gratifying to hear that it helped you personally. You know, I wasn't totally clear on that, but that's it's always gratifying.
It continues to, and there's still some big stuff that I know that's been brewing over the last year that I need to address, and it's going to take a great big truckload of Dan Ratner petrol. Please feel free to deliver that whenever you can to do it. Even though I know it will probably only take 5 minutes, and it will be the most transformational conversation I might have in my life for a different person, for another party, and for me. But it's just so fucking hard to face. I'm literally, I don't know how to do it, and I'm not ready.
But listen, I want to encourage you about this, and I do think this will help. because I have this too, and in fact, I'm having it right now at this stage in my life. There's something big that I'm grappling with. I'm not going to talk about the specifics, but maybe later.
Yep.
But every time, it's just as scary. It's just as scary because these are things that we have not wanted to deal with. We or didn't feel that we could be powerful about. I mean, look, this stuff can be downright terrifying.
Absolutely.
And I think that you have the key idea, and you learned this the hard way, is that you just put in the work day to day to day, moment to moment. And the way I think about it is I have to live by my own principles. Sometimes I'm like, oh, crap, I'm not living by my own principle here in this area. And I find that every time I do return to it, I just get rewarded. It starts to feel like I'm on some kind of cosmic or even spiritual path that's helping me somehow.
Yeah. A million percent. I totally agree. It feels like you're enlightened. It feels like some fucking bolt of lightning has hit you, or someone's giving you that limitless wonder drug where you've just gone, whoa, like, what happened there? And all you did was like make a conversation or say no to someone, whatever it was. Like, I totally agree with you. It feels completely transformational, and it is, but it does feel like divine or something, doesn't it? It feels like, who did that?
It really does. I wanted to ask one last question here before we wrap up.
Go for it.
I don't know I don't know whether you'll have an answer to this or not, or a clearly thought out answer, so don't feel like you have to. But I'm thinking about the people who are watching this who have had a similar experience. They're going to be like, yes, I know what they're talking about. But what do we say? I have some answers to this, but I want to hear yours. What do we say to the people who are like, I know what you're saying, but I can't do it, or I'll never get there? I'm just curious what your take would be on that.
I think feeling that way is a natural step. I think that is part of the path. Like, you will not feel like you can do it. And you can't necessarily even fast track someone into a certain stage of recovery, because for me, I feel like every stage that I've been through has been absolutely necessary. And you can't necessarily hack certain things or force certain things. So if you're not ready, if you're emotionally or physically or whatever not ready to take a certain step, like I'm avoiding doing this certain thing now that will probably heal me, everything I've ever bloody dealt with, like, you need to give yourself time until you're ready to take certain steps, and healing certain things and walking this path will get you to that point. That's how it felt for me anyway. Like, there's a staged thing that everybody's journey will be slightly different and everybody's struggle will be slightly different. But I think there's definitely a process that people need to walk through on their own, helped by other people, but their process is going to be their process. It will come. If you know that this is for you, it will happen. And I think that people almost need to like borrow a little bit of belief sometimes, or faith from other people, from success stories from people like you and me, like that we've done it, to just borrow it, just jump in and try it. Like, there's literally nothing you can really lose by just attempting this work.
I couldn't say it better myself. You know, I was just, it's at base, the question is, why not you? You know, why would it be that you can't do this? But you hit the nail on the head that everybody's process has to be whatever their process needs to be.
Yeah.
And I
it just unfolds as it needs to unfold, doesn't it?
Yeah. I love the idea of giving people the space to do that. And so Dani, I want to thank you for joining me here.
Yes, man. It's been a pleasure.
It's wonderful to be connected to you, and
same.
let's keep tracking each other on this about power, you know, because you helped me too. You know, it's so funny how that happens. I put this system out there, and then people say it back to me, and I'm like, thank you. Yes, that helps me. You know, because I use my system, but I run into trouble with it just like anybody else. And so you've inspired me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're all just human, aren't we? Fighting the good fight. Like, we're all same underneath, really, aren't we? Like, you know more about certain things, I know more about other things, but we're all just kind of in the same storm, really, different stages. But yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I do love the idea that thinking about it as that storm is necessary. Every time I come out on the other side, I'm like, wow, I could not possibly have seen how that would have helped. But
you could, exactly. You can't really hack it. You can't put on a raincoat or sit indoors and drink tea. You have to be out in it.
That's right.
Otherwise, you can't get through it.
Well, it's a pleasure being out here in it with you.
And you, Dan. Thank you.
Let's keep in touch, and I will talk to you soon, Dani. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. Take care of yourself.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Well, Dani is one of these people that I feel like if she and I sat down to talk about these things, we could 12 hours later feel like no time had passed. And that, I think, is partly because we share the same excitement about the work that we do, and we also share so much about how it has unfolded for us. But in particular, I think our bond, as I see it, really relates to this idea about power. With some people, we connect about doubt, or we connect about the way that we see how the emotions column works. But with Dani and I, it's so much about power, and I think we both found that we got powerful in the recovery, but we weren't seeing that as part of the recovery initially. Now we start to use it. First I discovered it, and then, of course, put my system out there, and then she discovered it and has used it so beautifully. But it really is the case that each and every one of us can awaken to our power. And at the end of the interview, of course, I brought up, well, what about the people who aren't finding that they can, or feel worried that they can't? And Dani said it beautifully. Your process is your process. You're going to need to figure out your way, but that way is necessary. So try to trust you. Trust your body. Take it at its word. It is guiding you towards where you need to go. I loved having this discussion with Dani. I hope it was helpful to you. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.